In this episode, we want to focus in on specifically the exam for the AWS CSAA, the SAA-C03 exam. Now, you can find information about the exam at the AWS website when you're looking at the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate exam page. You can schedule an exam, and you can also read some overview information about it. But notice right here, they say in bold italics, this exam does not require deep hands-on coding experience, although familiarity with basic programming concepts would be an advantage. So they're letting you know you're not going to have to necessarily master code to work with this. This is not a DevOps or developer certification. They have that for people that want that. But this is focused on design. Who should take the exam? Well, someone with 1 year of hands-on experience with AWS technology, including using compute, networking, storage, and database services, as well as AWS deployment and management services. They might need to have experience deploying, managing, and operating workloads on AWS, as well as implementing security controls and compliance. Familiarity with using both the AWS Management Console and the command line interface, understanding the well-architected framework, security and networking and the global infrastructure, and the ability to identify the services that meet given requirements, to define technical requirements for an AWS-based application. And I would suggest this is probably the most important of these bullet points, knowing which thing can do what you need and how it does it. Some of them you just need to know definitional information, and you'll see that as you go through this course, and some of them you need to understand how they actually work or function. The key here is with this bullet point, I would suggest that for this exam, really that experience is about solidifying the knowledge of how these things work. Not so much the step-by-steps of click here, then click here, then click there, but rather what can you choose when you're creating an S3 bucket? What options are available and what do they mean or what do they do so that you can design it well? Because the big focus here is on design. The CSAA is intended for anyone with 1 or more years of hands-on experience designing available, cost-efficient, fault-tolerant, and scalable distributed systems on AWS. So it's about design. So how do you earn the certification? You need to pass the exam, SAA-C03. And what is the exam like? Here you go. The exam overview. It's an associate-level exam. It's 130 minutes to complete the exam. It costs $150. And the format is 65 questions. So in that 130 minutes, you have 65 questions. If you think about that, that's about 2 minutes per question, okay? They'll either be multiple choice or multiple response. What does that mean? Well, let's look at the exam objectives or the exam guide. Multiple choice has 1 correct response and 3 incorrect responses. Multiple responses has 2 or more correct responses out of 5 or more response options. So you might have a question that says choose 2 or choose 3 things that are correct out of the responses, or it might simply be 1 answer is correct, okay? So as you're going through those exam items, a quick tip for you is quickly look at anything you can just rule out and say, that's definitely not the answer here. And then go back through those that remain and say, which are the best solutions to this scenario that I've been given? And that's quite often what you're given is a very brief scenario of how it works. Now notice though, the only 2 types are multiple choice and multiple response. That is also confirmed here. Multiple choice and multiple response. Compare that to SysOps Administrator. And I'll emphasize this throughout this opening portion of this course. The SysOps Administrator has 65 scoring opportunities that may be multiple choice, multiple response, or exam lab. See, exam lab is missing from SAA-C03. In other words, there aren't any simulations. There aren't any scenarios where you go in and actually do the implementation. And that's why I keep emphasizing, you need to be able to design it, not necessarily be able to do it as in completing the steps in the right order or something like that. You need to know how these things work so that you can plan for them, so that you can design for them. So remember, with this exam, 130 minutes, 65 questions, they're either multiple choice or multiple response.